Greetings and welcome back to the Wild Sunset Cooler. Today we are discussing Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. In her preface to Frankenstein, Mary Shelley writes that one of her chief concerns in this novel was the exhibition of the amiableness of domestic affection. Now we are going to respond and analyze the novel with reference to this statement. In the 1818 preface to Frankenstein, P.B. Shelley famously remarks that the novel's chief moral concern is the exhibition of the amiableness of domestic affection, that means the love, familiarity, closeness of a family, and the excellence of universal virtue, which is the human moral concerns or human rights, natural rights. Now we are going to see that how the devastation or the destruction of this universal virtue and amiableness of domestic affections creates the horror of the novel. Although Frankenstein is often remembered as a Gothic novel of horror and scientific ambition of whom? Scientific ambitions of Victor Frankenstein, the scientist. Because of the urgency, the desire to create a human, a living thing, his ambition of becoming a god. Its emotional and ethical center lies in the idealization, disruption, and eventual destruction of the domestic sphere. Rather than presenting home simply as a place of comfort, Mary Shelley portrays domestic affection as the moral foundation of human life. How? Because number one, how this amiableness of domestic affection and the excellence of universal virtue is destructed in the form of the monster. Number one, when Victor Frankenstein, the scientist, created the monster, he abandoned it. Number one reason is the monster is ugly looking. The universal virtue, which is the hard reality sometimes, that people judge you by your looks. So he is abandoned. Because why? Because he is just not good looking. He is not like common human. So he is abandoned based on something that he doesn't have any control over. Number two is when he observed the Ellis's families, he asked for love, which is a common thing. Like, imagine the monster as a newborn. So there is nothing for asking for love or craving from a mother or a family. But he doesn't get it. Now, number three, after not having any of this, neither mother love or the love of his creator, which is Victor Frankenstein, or nor getting the familial love, he asks for a female partnership so that he can create a family. But again, his creator, Victor Frankenstein, destroys it. So in this way, this creature who doesn't have any idea for universal virtue, like what is ugly, what is beauty, or any of this, he, without any valid reason, he gets abandoned. He gets unfair treatment. So this unfair treatment makes him a tragic villain. By contrasting the warmth of family relationship with Victor Frankenstein's obsessive pursuit of scientific glory, Shelley critiques the dangers of unchecked ambition and suggests that the domestic sphere functions as an essential moral guide capable of restraining destructive human desires. Which means, if we see it from another perspective, that if the monster gets love, if the monster gets the amiableness of the domestic sphere, this kind of violence that the monster takes in his hand will never happen. Now let's begin the first problem, which is the domestic ideal, the home as a moral sanctuary. The novel initially presents the domestic sphere as an idealized space of emotional security, affection, and moral education. Victor Frankenstein recalls his childhood in Geneva as one filled with unconditional parental love, describing his parents as animated by a deep consciousness of what they owed towards the being to whom they had given life. Similar models of domestic harmony appear throughout the novel. Now we have to remember that this novel is written in a Chinese box narrative structure, which is there is a letter inside a letter kind of technique. Elizabeth Lavenza functions as the nurturing center of the family. The loyal friendship between Victor and Henry Clerval, and especially the Ellis family. Literary critic Annie K. Mellor argues that the Daily Series presents an ideal model of a loving and mutually supportive bourgeois family. It is by secretly observing this household that the creator learns language, sympathy, morality, and the importance of human relationships. Shelley therefore suggests that compassion and ethical behavior are cultivated not through isolation but through participation in a healthy domestic environment. Shelley suggests that true humanity develops through family relationships rather than through scientific achievement. Now comes the second problem, which is the transgression, scientific ambition versus domestic affection. The novel's tragedy begins when Victor leaves his family to study at the University of Ingolstadt. His growing obsession with scientific discovery isolates him from his loved ones. Victor admits that he neglected his family and procrastinated all that related to my feelings of affection while pursuing his experiment. Later, Victor himself reflects upon the consequences of such ambition, observing that if no person allowed any pursuit to disturb the tranquility of his domestic affections, many of history's greatest disasters might have been avoided. Shelley therefore presents domestic affection as a necessary moral balance against intellectual pride. That's why you will see that in various psychological experiments or scientific observations, we have seen that how a healthy home, that means a peaceful home, affects a child mental health or mentality. Online there are many videos where you will see that how an experiment or observation has been conducted upon various children from a diverse family, child living without a parents, a child living with parents, their differences, how their concentration focuses on, etc. Critic Kate Ellis argues that the separation between the public world of male ambition and the private world of domestic life creates a dangerous imbalance. Victor learns values such as patience, charity, and self-control within the family, yet he fails to carry these virtues into the outside world. His scientific success is achieved at the cost of emotional responsibility, ultimately leading to catastrophe. One influential interpretation of Frankenstein is that its deepest horror lies not in the act of creating life, but in Victor's refusal to accept responsibility for the life he creates. Immediately after bringing the creature into existence, Victor abandons him, denying him the love, guidance, and emotional support normally provided by a family. The creature's longing throughout the novel is not simply for companionship, but for acceptance within a domestic relationship. When he asks Victor to create a female companion, he imagines a peaceful life away from humanity, promising that they will be more attached to one another because they would depend entirely upon each other. Victor's refusal destroys this final possibility of domestic happiness. In revenge, the creature systematically attacks Victor's own family, murdering William, causing Justin's execution, killing Henry Clerval, and finally murdering Elizabeth on her wedding night. Shelley demonstrates that Victor's neglect of his responsibilities ultimately destroys the very domestic world he once possessed. So again, the universal virtue is being destroyed by this way. Domestic affection as Shelley's moral vision. Many critics argue that Frankenstein questions aspects of William Godwin's political philosophy, particularly its emphasis on abstract universal benevolence over immediate family obligations. Shelley suggests that genuine moral responsibility begins within the family before extending to society at large. This idea is reinforced through Robert Walton, who functions as Victor's moral counterpart. Like Victor, Walton is driven by ambitions, dreams of achieving extraordinary scientific fame. However, unlike Victor, Walton eventually chooses compassion over personal glory. Faced with the danger to his crew, he abandons his Arctic expedition and returns home to his sister, Margaret Saville. For those who have not read the novel, I will tag the summary of the novel here. Walton's decision demonstrates the moral lesson that Victor never learns. Ambition must remain subordinate to human responsibility and domestic affection. Ultimately, Frankenstein presents domestic affection, social responsibility, and scientific ambition as closely interconnected themes. Shelley doesn't reject knowledge or scientific discovery. Instead, she warns against the pursuit of knowledge without compassion, responsibility, or emotional connection. Victor's tragedy arises because he sacrifices family, friendship, and moral duty for personal ambition, while Walton avoids a similar fate by choosing human life over individual glory. The novel therefore suggests that domestic affection is not merely a private refuge, but the ethical foundation upon which human action depends. Now, some of the critical views are Annie K. Miller argues that Ellis's family represents an ideal model of mutual affection and moral education, highlighting the importance of domestic relationships in shaping ethical behavior. Kate Ellis views Frankenstein as a critique of the bourgeois family, arguing that the separation between domestic life and public ambition contributes to Victor's downfall, which is the scientist's downfall. Remember, the name of the scientist is Victor Frankenstein. Many scholars also suggest that Shelley questions aspects of William Godwin's political philosophy by emphasizing the importance of immediate family responsibilities alongside broader social obligations. Together, these interpretations demonstrate that Frankenstein is not only a Gothic novel but also a profound reflection on family morality, human responsibility. Thus, the amiableness of domestic affection and the universal truth lies as a center of moral concern in this novel. Now, a quick recapitulation is that whole of the thing happens because the creature is not born evil. Because Victor abandons him immediately after creation, he grows up completely alone without love, education, or guidance. His loneliness becomes the main cause of his suffering and later violence. After watching the Ellis's family, the creature longs for love and companionship. He hopes they will accept him because they are kind and compassionate. However, they reject him because of his appearance. This rejection destroys his hope of becoming part of human society. The creature later asks Victor to create a female companion so that he may have someone to share his life with. He promises that they will leave human society forever and live peacefully in South America. Victor first agrees but later destroys the unfinished female creature, fearing the possible consequences. This decision finally turns the creature into Victor's determined enemy. So you can see that the monster was not evil from the beginning. He tried very much. He tried for long time. Then finally he becomes like a real monster. The creature's revenge is aimed directly at Victor's family. He murders William, frames Justin for the crime, kills Henry Clerval, murders Elizabeth on her wedding night, and eventually causes Victor's father to die from grief. Shelley shows that Victor's failure as a creator ultimately destroys the domestic world he once valued, which means Victor has ambition. There is nothing wrong in it, but he doesn't take accountability of it. He has ambition. In ambition, he creates the monster, but he fails to give the love that it needs. Similar way, Victor also doesn't get love, loses his love for family, his everyone that gives him the domestic affection. If you have liked this video, please make sure to like, subscribe and share with your friends. All the sources that I have used in this video are given in the description. You can go and check them.